Power distribution modules are certainly nothing new, but one of the complaints we always hear from enthusiasts looking to add one is the cost. Well, this particular product here at the CWI Performance booth has caught my eye. It's a power distribution module and it is under $500 including a Blink Marine keypad. We're here with Sam from CWI to find out a little bit more about the product. So this is a substantial way below where we would normally expect to see a power distribution module. Now, for a start, what's really important to say is this is not solid state, is it? This does use mechanical relays inside the packaging?
Correct. So on our current version, as you can see here on the display, the current version that we have has 10 outputs, and those 10 outputs, you have 6 small 15 amp relays and 4 bigger 40 amp relays that we can use to switch. We can do polarity reversion on them. So if you're running a DC motor that can reverse polarity like on a power window motor, then you can use it to bring the window up and down, stuff like that.
Okay, so just wanted to clear away that right at the start, that it does use a conventional relay and there's nothing specifically wrong with that in this particular package. One of the reasons obviously why it's priced where it is. One of the other advantages that we do see with power distribution modules, however, is that they allow smart fusing. So instead of using a mechanical fuse that when it blows you physically have to replace it, this is done electronically. Safe to assume that that is still how your product works?
Correct. So we monitor the current that's coming into the unit, and we limit it based on just, it's a hard-coded, the end user essentially doesn't get to choose what the amperage rating for each of the outputs is. We just have a hard limit at 40 amps on the unit. So the unit is obviously a very low power unit and very affordable, and that's what we're trying to keep it at. It's currently the unit that we have out in the market is a unit that's more designed for an accessory purpose, and we are planning on making a unit that's going to have 27 outputs with about a 240 amp capability on it.
Just to come back to your fusing there, you've mentioned that there are 40 amp outputs and there are also 15 amp outputs. From what I understand, 10 outputs, 6 15 and 4 40 amp. Mm-hmm. It's safe to assume that the 40 amp are fused at 40 and the 15 are fused at 50 though?
Correct.
15, not 50?
Correct.
In terms of the advantages of power distribution modules, one of them is the electronic fusing and the ability to retry these circuits if they fail. Moving on from that though, the simplicity of wiring is really important, and this is something that a lot of people overlook. Yes, in general terms, a power distribution module will add a little bit of expense to your build, but what it saves in terms of time spent actually wiring up individual relays and fuses, that's something that's really easy to overlook. So I wanted to get that in there. But in terms of wiring up switches, again, conventionally wiring up individual switches, that's really time consuming. This particular unit works with the Blink Marine CAN-based keypad. So tell us how that integrates.
So the Blink Marine keypad, we have it fully integrated to our unit. We basically offer the unit with the Blink Marine 10 button option, since the unit has 10 outputs. That way you can assign individual outputs to each individual key on the keypad. That obviously takes away from the bulkiness of having to wire 10 different toggle switches. We still do low side or high side selectable inputs to the unit. We have 3 of those in the unit, so that if you wanted to, for example, use an ECU and trigger some kind of output using an ECU input, you could do that as well.
So for example, you've got an ECU that is triggering the thermofans to come on above a certain temperature and the fuel pump to run when you key on and when the engine's running. You can wire those auxiliary outputs from the ECU into the PDM. You can control those that way rather than needing to physically push a button on that keypad?
Correct.
Now, the fact it has that CAN-based keypad, that sort of suggests that you've got CAN capability there. A lot of the ECUs on the market now will send out a CAN message that asks for things like a fuel pump to be turned on. Can this communicate with those ECUs and use those CAN messages, or is that outside its capability?
So on the current state of the unit, what we're doing is we are developing the CAN side of things to essentially be a drop-down menu where you can select certain CAN messages that we will give you the configuration settings for those messages based on whatever ECU you're using. So yes, it is completely capable of being integrated CAN-wise into the ECU rather than using just the keypad or low side or high side inputs. But at the current state of the unit, we don't offer that. That is definitely something that we will be including for sure in a more user configurable way for our next unit, which is going to be a more basically running a whole car.
Now, in terms of that, I think there's actually some advantages there that are easy to overlook. Everyone thinks that they want the most complex product that's the most configurable. The reality is that 85% of enthusiasts out there actually don't probably need that. And the complexity for people, they get scared of learning about CAN templates and messaging. So I think that there's some advantages in making this simple, even to the terms of where you do have CAN interface, just having that drop-down selectable. I've got XYZ ECU, select that, and then your job's done. In the same vein, a lot of the PDMs that are currently on the market, they do allow some pretty complex functionality to be set up by the user. Again, when you know what you're doing with it and you want to do something complex, that's great, but a lot of people get scared off by that. Now, this particular PDM, if I'm reading the situation right, if you want to turn on your fuel pump, your thermofan, wind your windows up and down, it's going to be perfect. If you want to start developing some complex functions to do anti-stall functionality, if you stall the car on a standing start, this isn't the unit for you, is that right?
Definitely. So we want to keep things as simple as possible for the end user because we believe that there is a lack of a device that offers that in the market. All of the device personally that I've used, they have a really high entry level barrier where you have to know how to program essentially to get the functionality out of the PDMs. So what we're trying to do is trying to bring it down to earth to the more conventional people that they're used to other softwares that are essentially drop down menus and more simplistic use. And still offer that same benefit of having it be easy to wire into any car.
In terms of the wiring, the connectors on it, readily available DTM style connectors, no special tooling required either?
Nope. So we can offer pins for you if you buy the unit and you'd like a pin and plug kit, we can give that to you, but it's a easily available DT 12 pin connector on there.
Perfect. Now, if people do want to find out more about the product or purchase, where are they best to do so?
They can go to cwiperformance.com. You can find us on Instagram as CWI Performance or on Facebook as CreativeWorks Inc.
Perfect. Thanks for your time there, Sam.
Thank you.
If you like that video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already a subscriber, make sure you're subscribed. We release a new video every week. And if you like free stuff, we've got a great deal for you. Click the link in the description to claim your free spot to our next live lesson.